well, usually I think could be considered a captive gaggle of correspondents in the Pentagon. During the press conference, Austin also responded to the murder of 3 American service members in Jordan. He declared it is a, quote, dangerous moment in the Middle East. Whoa.
The president will not tolerate attacks on American troops, and neither will I. Our teammates were killed by radical militias backed by Iran and operating inside Syria and Iraq. In the aftermath of the vile Hamas terrorist assault on Israel on October 7th, terrorist groups backed by Iran and funded by Iran have tried to create even more turmoil, including the Houthis attacking commercial shipping in the Red Sea. So this is a dangerous moment in the Middle East.
Dangerous. 150 attacks should alert anyone to that effect, even Lloyd Austin. Like President Biden, Lloyd Austin is clearly not someone who exudes confidence or strength. This is a man who wore a mask and a face shield outside. But this is the Biden administration, after all, and this is the man they decided would lead our nation's military. There's something amiss here. I'm sure the Chinese and the Russians just quiver in fear when they look or listen at Lloyd Austin. The truth is, we don't have to guess about what our enemies are thinking of Biden and Austin. The best indicator of a president's strength is to look at our enemies' actions. And judging by the Houthis' continued attacks against commercial shipping in the Red Sea, our enemies don't fear us at all. The Houthis are now claiming that they struck a U.S. merchant ship. 2 sources tell the BBC that the claim is fake, but the Biden administration has so far failed to comment on the alleged attack. If that attack was a fake, why won't the administration simply come out and say so? It doesn't take an expert to see that these attacks will continue until the Biden administration retaliates, and with strength and purpose. And though the Biden administration has failed to respond, well, the president's officials are telegraphing future battle plans to the global media. According to CBS News, Iranian-backed militias are evacuating their bases in the region after Biden administration officials shared details about the supposed upcoming weeks of bombing and retaliation with NBC News. I'd like to think this is just incompetence, wouldn't you? But we probably shouldn't forget this administration is filled with the same pro-Iranian zealots who helped craft the Iran deal under the Obama administration. And at a certain point, we have to question whether this is outright deliberate. Either way, under Joe Biden, America is under greater threat than ever before, from without and from within. And yesterday, in a hearing on Capitol Hill, FBI Director Christopher Wray testified that the Chinese Communist Party is hacking American infrastructure, like our electrical grid and water treatment plants.
The CCP's dangerous actions, China's multi-pronged assault on our national and economic security, make it the defining threat of our generation. Now, when I described the CCP as a threat to American safety a moment ago, I meant that quite literally. There has been far too little public focus on the fact that PRC hackers are targeting our critical infrastructure, our water treatment plants, our electrical grid, our oil and natural gas pipelines, our transportation systems, and the risk that poses to every American requires our attention now.
So the Chinese government could destroy American communities without firing a single shot. Just imagine if American cities, major cities, completely lost power for weeks, or if our food supply chain was disrupted, or if, all of a sudden, overnight, Americans lost access to clean drinking water. And we're supposed to feel confident that Joe Biden and Lloyd Austin are just the fellows to protect us from all that. That doesn't even include war. And war is in prospect. Joining us tonight is Lieutenant Colonel Tony Shaffer, retired Pentagon intelligence operative. He joins us now to take up all of this. Tony, thanks for being with us. Let's start,
Sure.
if we may, with the House Select Committee on CCP and the attendant threats. Congressman Gallagher, the chairman of that, did you hear anything new in that hearing?
No, nothing new, Lou, but what I found disappointing is that when Christopher Wray, the director of the FBI, again sounded the alarm, there was no answer to the alarm. One of the things that's notable, and you and I have spoken about this significantly over the past year, is the CCP, the PRC, using the full scope of their resources, that is economic influence and intimidation, military influence, intimidation, expanded spying on us and our allies, and now Christopher Wray even acknowledging the significant threat to our infrastructure via his testimony, but there's no solution. It's like, yeah, we've recognized this. What are you all going to do about it? And I appreciate Congress having the hearing. It's not Congress's job to come up with solutions, but Lou, very clearly, this administration has no idea how to actually answer the very threats that were outlined in today's hearing.
And Gallagher talks like a man who's very concerned about these issues. And yet,
Indeed.
These are the same issues that we were talking about 10 years ago. That is, front
Yes.
companies for the CCP, the PLA in this country, spying on Americans, espionage, stealing secrets, technology, advanced technology, to the tune of $600 billion a year, and there's still no solution. I mean, that's a subsidy of the Chinese government and their extraordinary exploits by the United States of $600 billion. I mean,
Yeah,
and then if congressman after congressman talks about this stuff, and there is, as you say, no solution. Commercial banks are being torn up. Money is going out of this country, siphoned out through the cyber attacks conducted by the CCP. It's just the cost of doing business. This is madness, the way this country is operating in terms of national security, is it not?
it is. And what's significant here, Lou, is that there are huge gaps now developing within our ability to defend the U.S. And our allies in the Pacific. A couple things. First off, artificial intelligence and drones. The Chinese are out manufacturing us something like 100 to 1 regarding drones. They're supplying them to Russia quietly in their war against Ukraine. And within the context of DoD, I do maintain some friendly relationship with folks in the Pentagon. And one of the things, Lou, that I'm being told is there's a real gap of artificial intelligence and defending against those sorts of things because, simply put, our side's been asleep at the switch while the Chinese have been diligent. And it goes back more than 10 years. It goes back to really the beginning of my career. We were watching the Chinese do massive collection against everything we were doing. Bill Gertz even wrote a book in the late 90s about how the Clinton administration turned over multiple reentry vehicle nuclear weapon technology to provide that to them. So we have seen literally probably upwards of $1 trillion of intellectual property, as well as trade secrets, military secrets, simply given to the Chinese. And now at this point where we actually are looking at them as a likely adversary, I will put them in the likely category. I think they're going to try to do something later this year against Taiwan because the timing is right. We are literally sitting on our hands and pretending that we have not seen this coming.
Yep. Well, it's interesting. How would you describe them? I describe them as an enemy. When Xi Jinping said that war with the United States could occur in a time frame of 2025 to 27, I took him at his word. That makes him an enemy. When people are stealing from you at the rate that these folks are, that makes them an enemy. When we don't have a response, that makes us idiots and victims.
Yes.
And we better get our heads on straight. But I don't see anybody to do that. I don't think it's going to be Lloyd Austin who changes history here. I don't think. God bless him. I don't think Joe Biden is the fella either. So whoever the council of Marxist Dems are who run the Democrat Party and this Biden regime, they better get their heads on straight because If this is part of some sort of international kumbaya amongst the Marxists, I think that there are going to be some very surprised and sorry people who think they're going to be the overseers and lords of this country when the Chinese decide they're going to be the enemy that we know they are.
Yeah. So look no further than one of those Marxists to Gavin Newsom, Lou, in November, when Newsom took the initiative to clear up the streets of San Francisco for the overlord you call Z to show up. Z said to Biden's face, this was made to his face, that the Chinese, the CCP, would take back Taiwan no matter what it took. And that meant militarily as well. And Biden simply laughed at him. And we have done, again, nothing to respond to what I believe was a credible threat made by a world leader to Joe Biden. Instead, while Biden did call him a dictator, ultimately, there's been no actual response adequate to reassure our allies. Now, let me say this, and it may get me in trouble. Our allies recognize that there's no one in charge of the enterprise here. Lloyd Austin's press conference today, Lloyd, did not invoke any sort of fear or worry in our enemies. So we have the Japanese,
Boy, sure struck
South
fear.
Koreans.
It sure struck fear in me, Tony. Anybody watching that, listening to that man talk about himself, I mean, are you kidding me? This man, it's unbelievable. It's unbelievable.
I was in combat with him. No, I was in combat with the Brigadier General, and Brigadier General Austin and the guy in today who spoke is not the same guy. I don't know what happened to him. But with that said, our allies in the Pacific know what's going on. Australia, New Zealand, the South Koreans and Japan all recognize that they can no longer count on us as a strong ally. As a matter of fact, the Japanese and South Koreans are going so far as to create their own nuclear programs because they don't believe that the nuclear umbrella that we guaranteed them to prevent them from having their own nuclear weapons would be adequately prepared or able to respond should the Chinese do something.
I'm sorry, we've hit a hard out. I appreciate it, Tony, and thank you very much for, no, not at all. I appreciate it, and it's great to see you, my friend.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Great seeing you, sir. Take care.
Coming up here next, Tara Reade accused Joe Biden of sexual assault. But unlike E. Jean Carroll, Tara Reade wasn't awarded $83 million, nor was she celebrated by the national corporate media. Instead, Reade says she was targeted by the Justice Department for going ahead and coming forward with her claims. Well, now she's suing for their campaign against her. Tara Reade joins us here next to talk about it all. Also, coming up, the future of electronic voting, not only in Georgia, but perhaps the country, may be decided shortly in an Atlanta courtroom. Amber Connor with the report. She's been inside that courtroom all day, all the way for the latest developments. Stay with us.
To celebrate the new year, we're having the biggest sale ever on overstock clearance and brand new products. For example, save 60% on our Goose Down comforters, the best comforters ever. They go perfectly with our MyPillow bed sheets and duvet covers. Save 25% on our brand new kitchen towels. They're made with the same technology as our famous My Towels. Our initial quantities are extremely low, so get them now before they go. Our seasonal flannel sheets are finally in. You save up to 50% and they sell out fast every year, so order now. They're truly the best flannel sheets you'll ever sleep on. Or save up to 80% on all our clearance items. And this is where it gets even better. For a limited time, your entire order ships absolutely free. So go to MyPillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use that promo code to get deep discounts on all MyPillow products. And for a limited time, your order ships absolutely free.
Welcome back. From the moment E. Jean Carroll leveled her allegations against former President Trump, she was embraced by the national corporate media. It is not hard to guess why. Their hatred for President Trump by default validated all of Carroll's claims, especially in a New York over-the-top jury. It's that simple, and we all know that. In fact, the media didn't even try to cover Carol objectively. They fawned over her throughout the trial, even after the trial ended when she's awarded over $80 million by the jury. Here's a look at some of the hard-hitting coverage subsequently.
You've talked about using some of Trump's money that you're about to get to help shore up women's rights. Do you know what that might be, what that might look like?
Yes, Rachel. Yes.
Tell me.
I had such great ideas for all the good I'm going to do with this money. First thing, Rachel, you and I are going to go shopping. We're going to get completely new wardrobes, new shoes, motorcycle for Crowley, new fishing rod for Robbie. Rachel, what do you want? Penthouse? It's yours,
Nothing.
Rachel.
Has it settled in yet?
What a good question. The elation was so great on Friday. It filled me up. It was almost painful. It's taken really every day. Today, I'm just very happy.
What was it like being in the courtroom with Donald Trump?
Well, terrifying until I got there. The weeks leading up to it, no sleep, couldn't eat.
Well, we're expected to believe that this woman, when she says Donald Trump raped her, which is an interesting charge considering that Carol herself glorified rape on national television with Anderson Cooper. She called the heinous act sexy in that interview with Cooper. Here it is.
You don't feel like a victim?
I was not thrown on the ground and ravished, which the word rape carries so many sexual connotations. This was not sexual. It hurt.
But I think most people think of rape as it is a violent assault. It is not.
I think most people think of rape as being sexy.
Let's take a short break.
Think of the fantasies.
We're going to take a quick break. If you can stick around, we'll talk more on the other side.
You're fascinating to talk to.
I haven't asked Anderson Cooper, but I have to think that was one of the toughest interviews he's ever done. She had quite a different point of view, as we say in the trade, than he anticipated. And just so you're aware, that is some of the evidence that President Trump was barred from presenting to the jury in that absolute screwball kangaroo trial. No mainstream corporate outlet that we could find reported on the fact that Carol could not recall the date or the month that this quote-unquote rape happened. And yet, according to the national media, she must be believed without evidence, without any factual circumstance to rely on. In fact, she destroyed evidence that had been subpoenaed. Contrast that with any number of Bill Clinton's accusers or Joe Biden's accuser, Tara Reade. In 2020, Reade came forward and claimed Joe Biden had sexually assaulted her in 1993 when she was a staffer in his Senate office. Joe Biden claimed the incident never happened. Here he is.
She says in 1993, Mr. Vice President, that you pinned her against the wall and reached under her clothing and penetrated her with your fingers. Would you please go on the record with the American people? Did you sexually assault Tara Reade?
No, it is not true. I'm saying unequivocally, it never happened. And it didn't. It never happened.
Well, not only were Reade's claims largely ignored after that, but according to Reade, she later had been the subject of an FBI operation, as she put it, in retaliation for her allegations. Reade is now suing the Justice Department for $10 million for emotional distress and anxiety and for violating her Fourth Amendment rights. Tara Reade joins us here now to talk about her lawsuit and her emotional state at this point after these many years in which she's been having to deal with it. Tara Reade, great to have you with us here on Dobbs Tonight. I'd like to start by...
You have a very prolific career, and thank you for having me.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. I want to start with where you are with your lawsuit. Can you give us a quick synopsis of that?
Yeah, Dr. John Levy is my attorney who filed the tort claim. It's a tort claim. First, we filed a complaint against the Inspector General to simply have my FBI files revealed. And then there was no response. So this was a follow-up to that. And this tort claim is it's a violation of my First Amendment rights, freedom of speech, Fourth Amendment, and then violations of FISA. In fact, some of the same laws that were violated in regards to the former president, Donald Trump, and Rudy Giuliani. In fact, much of the actions that were taken towards me were similar to those that have been taken on with some of the Trump supporters, with Trump himself, with Rudy Giuliani, as I mentioned, January 6th protesters, and even people that are in political opposition on the left. And so this case is about a weaponized, politicized DOJ going after American citizens. And what it will do, it's a mechanism that'll expose what they were doing, how they were surveillancing me, how they had illegal FISA hearings about me. You know, I was.
Well, let's talk about that.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk about how did they impede your rights? You had interviews with the FBI agents, did you not?
Well, let's go back. Let's go back to 2019. When I came forward, forward the first time in 1993. I filed a complaint against Joe Biden that is now sealed in the University of Delaware. I told witnesses contemporaneously at the time, my mother, my brother, a good friend, and all of those people were willing to go under oath, with the exception of my mother, who is deceased. But then I also had my mother called into the Larry King show, and there is a recording of that talking about what happened. There's also a legal document for my divorce that references the sexual misconduct by Joe Biden in a legal document.
Let me ask you this. You said your mother called in to Larry King. Yes. You said there's a tape of that. There is evidence of that. Where did you present that to the FBI, or did they discover it, or where does that evidence stand? Because that's compelling.
They didn't.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you. I didn't hear you. What if you would try it again?
The FBI did not question me about the case, about my case, about against Joe Biden. Uh-huh. I went to the FBI in 2019 when I came forward because I was given death threats. And when one has death threats, you know, when they're online and those kinds of things, you go to the FBI. And so as a citizen, you know, I mean, I had worked for Leon Panetta, for Joe Biden. I've worked with Homeland Security. I was a victim advocate. So I was inclined to go to law enforcement for help when I got death threats. I didn't know that the FBI was investigating me. They were already weaponized. And what I came to find out later is that this operation included, because the Joe Biden campaign accused me of being a Russian spy in 2019. And, you know, that's what they were calling everyone. The Steele dossier, which has been proven, you know, false, all of that kind of thing. This was sort of the go-to for the Democrats in 2019, 2020, all the way back to 2016. So
we're getting a feel from something that I think is important, Tara, and I understand that you've got a lot to cover here. But when it comes down to this, your allegation of sexual assault by Joe Biden in 1993, is there evidence of that?
There's contemporaneous witnesses. And the things that I just talked about. And Joe, I was at work. I was a Senate aide. And this happened during the workday at work in a corridor. And I did go for help and didn't receive it. Now, it's never been investigated, ever. So when I kept coming forward, the media attacked me and smeared me. And then once Joe Biden came into office, the DOJ and FBI was weaponized against me. And there's now a sealed case in Northern California where the DOJ had probed all of my communications, including Twitter, and that's been publicized. The search warrant was publicized. It was sealed, but it got leaked, and by a Twitter attorney. And this is happening to other Americans. So what happened to me is happening to other people. So basically, I was seen as a threat to Joe Biden. He weaponized the DOJ and FBI to go after me, to try to silence me, suppress the information, even imprison me.
I even imprison you.
Yes,
let me just back up just a bit, because you've thrown a lot at me. We've got very little time, maybe a minute or so. Where is your case actually in court? What court has it been filed in?
In federal court in D.C. So it's in federal court.
In D.C.?
It's available online.
I'm sorry, say it again.
It's in federal court. It's available online. It's been publicized, so people can look it up.
Is it in, what state is it in?
In Washington, D.C.
Okay. So as you proceed with that case, the evidence that you've got, that is the Larry King audio tape, obviously.
Let me be clear.
This evidence there. Have you?
Yeah, you're getting. Yeah, this is against the DOJ's violation of my First Amendment rights and Fourth Amendment rights, and targeting me, trying to imprison me, and threatening me. And we have evidence of that. What this will do is release those FBI files and show the misconduct and the violation of those rights and the rights of privacy.
Well, we wish you luck with that, and we'd like to hear more about it if you will keep us posted.
Yes.
And we would also like to be able to hear my former colleague Larry King, what that call from your mother sounded like, and what was said with him. That would be very important, I think, evidence that we'd love to put in front of our audience as soon as possible. We know it's tough times, and you're going to trial here in D.C. We wish you luck with that case, and we hope that that justice prevails. Tara, thank you very much. We appreciate it. Thank you, Tara Reid. Coming up next, fresh after impeaching DHS Secretary Mayorkas, House Republicans have found a new target in the Biden cabinet. We'll take that up here next. And a programming reminder for everyone, please join us each and every day. That's right, 7 days a week on my podcast, The Great America Show, available at LouDobbs.com, Apple Podcast, iHeart, Spotify, wherever you get your podcast. We'll be there waiting to serve you. That's the Great America Show podcast. Please join us and stay with us. We're coming right back here.
Hello, I'm Mike Lindell, and I'm here to tell you about my new product from MyPillow, towels that actually work. Watch this absorbency test. Here's another towel that we randomly went out and bought. Here's one of my towels with the nice design. I don't know if you can see this, but you could line a swimming pool with this. I mean, this is crazy. Get rid of it. Towels that actually work. What a concept. I'm interrupting this commercial to let you know you can get our 6-piece My Towels, regular $69.98, now only $29.98. Or you can save 25% on our brand new kitchen towels, made with the same technology as our famous My Towels. Also, we have bath sheets, bath towels, washcloths, hand towels, and so much more. And the best part, with your promo code, your entire order ships absolutely free. So go to mypillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use that promo code to get deep discounts on all My Towels. And for a limited time, your order ships absolutely free.
Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin holding his first media briefing since being hospitalized, and Austin quietly checked himself into a hospital due to complications from a treatment for prostate cancer. The Defense Secretary hid that little incident from the White House and the public for days. The man in charge of overseeing our military simply disappeared. He went AWOL, to put it in military terminology. MIA. Well, he wasn't even in an A, so it has to be AWOL, without telling anyone, in a state of global turmoil. It seems at any moment the world could catch fire, and it's no wonder our enemies are emboldened. This administration doesn't make a lick of sense. It looks like actually an inside job against every interest of this country. Our troops have been attacked over and over, and now 3 killed under the watch of this disastrous administration in Jordan. We shall respond, the puppet president vowed. Americans aren't holding their breath. nor putting great expectations forward. Meanwhile, in Montana, a young girl was taken from her parents after she expressed suicidal thoughts and wanted to identify as transgender. This is someone who is very sick, who needs compassionate care. Her parents, the Kolstads, obviously agree with that. They want to help her, but what they don't agree with is turning their daughter into a boy. And because they resisted playing along with the state took custody of the girl. The Republican Montana governor, Greg Gianforte, said his office reviewed the case and found nothing wrong with how it was handled. Really, everything is wrong with it, and the governor is a dupe. It's a story that is part tragedy and travesty, and the story is unfolding. Republican Congressman Matt Rosendale of Montana is with us tonight. We'll talk about that. He's also leading the effort to impeach Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin, and Congressman Rosendale joins us right now. Congressman, great to have you with us. I want to talk to you a lot about Lloyd Austin, obviously, but this family and this young girl in the state of Montana, is the governor an idiot?
No, it's a tragic situation, Lou. I will tell you. Anytime that you have a child that is that confused and troubled, that they first of all would have any type of suicidal thoughts, we all really our heart breaks for that. But for the state to come in and remove that child from the home of the parents and guardians, that is deeply disturbing. And then transported that child, Lou, across state lines to Wyoming, where this child started being administered some of the preparations to start changing her from a young woman to a young man, should deeply disturb every one of your listeners. They started putting her in these straps that flatten out her breast, quite frankly, in preparation of doing a double mastectomy. And then, of course, you start having the introduction of the puberty blockers and the treatment thereafter and the other surgeries. And it is very disturbing because the parents wanted to treat that child and make sure the child had proper counseling in Montana. And to think that the state was able to come in and remove her from the house is terrible. What is our country coming to?
Well, I don't know. I can't answer that, because when this is practiced in so many states across the country, we haven't even heard anything from the medical establishment. We haven't heard from the Congress. We haven't heard from the Senate. No public hearings on this extraordinarily important public issue. And as you say, the state of Montana, really? This used to be the rough and ready, solid American state of states. And now it's turned into some sort of, I don't know what your state's turned into, but if you've got a governor who thinks that was handled well, what are you going to, why don't we impeach him along with Lloyd Austin?
So right now, I'm trying to get the Governors Association, the National Governors Association, together to make sure that they have proper legislation, have proper laws in place so that these minors cannot be removed from their homes by the state in order to perform these types of mutilations. This is call it what it is. It's a mutilation of a child that is disturbed, that needs compassion, that needs counseling. And I have a very good friend, the Attorney General in Montana, Austin Knudsen. We have not checked in with him yet because we've been trying to go through the National Governors Association. I always hate to start bringing legislation at the federal level, Lou, if we can avoid that so that the states can handle these issues, because most of these things are best handled at the state. But if you have an overzealous child services that's going in and somehow the state doesn't feel that they have the ability to prohibit that from happening, then we are looking in right now to see what legislation I need to introduce to keep this from happening in the future, so that the parents are able to love and protect, quite frankly, their children in the fashion that they see fit.
And I understand that that family, those parents, I understand she has a sibling, I think a brother. They've had some hard times and difficult times, and the family needs help, without question. And counseling, psychiatric care, I don't know what the prescription is. But I love the fact that you have constraint when you talk about legislating at the federal level, because the federal level hasn't been honest with the American people about transgender affirmation, surgery or mutilation, if you prefer, which is what I think it really is. It's irresponsible on the part of the state. It is a ridiculous point where we have a medical establishment that isn't even talking about this issue to the national public. And it's outrageous.
The state legislature, they did propose and were able to pass one law, but apparently it wasn't extensive enough. So we're reaching out to the state legislators as well to make sure what they can do, what additional measures, what additional guards they need in place to make sure that the state is not able to come in against parents' will and remove their children from a household. And look, Lou, and took that girl across the state line. I mean, you would think that the FBI would be involved in this. Took the child across state lines into Wyoming so that this mutilation could be performed.
Where such mutilation is lawful, if not immoral and outrageous. But is she at this point safe? Did they harm her in any way? Do you know?
Has she had an actual surgery conducted at this point? No, I do not believe so. But they already started the process of putting, and I forget what the device is called, but basically to flatten her breasts out so that they can prepare her to have this double mastectomy performed. And so the preparations had been put in place.
I have to tell you, the state of Montana is going to be broke when this family sues. They're going to sue the state, the governor, everyone associated with it, and it may be the best way to begin to get people to take seriously this. And Congressman, as usual, I'm grateful for your outlook and what you're doing and what you're bringing to the state, which we hope is some sense of morality and ethics and caution and humility when it comes to governance. I want to say I didn't see any, and I'm going to change subject here because it's just so outrageous. We will keep our audience up to date on this. I want to get to where we are with Lloyd Austin. This man today conducting a press conference that was all about him. It was mea culpa, and he said he'd take full responsibility. Had he done that, he would have resigned on the spot. This was the head of the Defense Department going AWOL and being utterly irresponsible, and then sitting up there playing like a PR flack instead of talking like a general. The leadership of this Pentagon is an outright joke, and it's a disgrace. Where do we go with his impeachment?
Yeah, so it is a major problem. And again, this is the MO of this administration. I put out on Twitter today that they remind me of bears. They're as regular as bears with their dump every Friday. It just so happened that this news dump came out on Thursday because they knew everyone was flying out today, and there was going to be no members of Congress here to try and hold the administration accountable. Lloyd Austin was wrong. You are 100% correct. If he took complete responsibilities for his actions, then he would resign over this and the many, many other problems. So right now, I've introduced a resolution of impeachment on Lloyd Austin, and it focuses on the Chinese spy balloon incident that some people have forgotten about, but the folks of Montana haven't, because I will tell you that spy balloon was allowed by Lloyd Austin. NORAD locates Lloyd Austin, it directs our military, and that spy balloon was allowed to come over the Aleutian Islands, enter American airspace, travel across Alaska, travel across Canada, and then came across the line over Montana and our military base and stayed there, Lou, for a couple of days collecting data and images about our nuclear arsenal, and he denied it. Number one, that it was there. Number two, that it was able to collect data. And number three, that they were transmitting that data back to China.
Yeah, as we learned subsequently. I think that the only problem I have with your impeachment of Lloyd Austin is I think that there are a lot of candidates for the a particular action you're seeking in his case. So, Godspeed. It's about time somebody in this administration was held accountable for what has been the most egregiously corrupt, sickeningly incompetent, inept administration in this country's history. Matt Rosendale, we thank you very much for being with us, and wish you, Godspeed with all that you can do for your constituents and the people of Montana. Thanks so much for being with us. We'll take up the impeachment as well on your next visit. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Congressman Matt Rosendale, great American. Coming up next, Joe Biden, not a great American. His stenographer says he's guilty of serious crimes. He says he's got evidence that would lead to his impeachment and imprisonment. Our next guest argues that there is, beyond a shadow of a doubt, that evidence. We'll be talking with our reporter Amber Connor on the latest developments in that Atlanta courtroom where the future of electronic voting is being decided. Stay with us. We're coming right back.
Hello, I'm Mike Lindell, and I'm here to tell you about my new product from MyPillow, towels that actually work. Watch this absorbency test. Here's another towel that we randomly went out and bought. Here's one of my towels with the nice design. I don't know if you can see this, but you could line a swimming pool with this. I mean, this is crazy. Get rid of it. Towels that actually work. What a concept. I'm interrupting this commercial to let you know you can get our 6-piece My Towels, regular $69.98, now only $29.98. Or you can save 25% on our brand new kitchen towels, made with the same technology as our famous My Towels. Also, we have bath sheets, bath towels, washcloths, hand towels, and so much more. And the best part, with your promo code, your entire order ships absolutely free. So go to mypillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use that promo code to get deep discounts on all My Towels. And for a limited time, your order ships absolutely free.
Well, for 6 years, Mike McCormick served as Joe Biden's stenographer. McCormick followed then Vice President Biden from Eastern Europe to Latin America, and now McCormick wants Biden impeached and imprisoned for a litany of crimes he claims Biden committed. Last year, McCormick was a whistleblower on an alleged kickback scheme between Joe Biden and his son Hunter. McCormick says he recorded a conversation between Jake Sullivan and Joe Biden as they prepared to travel to Ukraine in 2014. One of Biden's priorities on that trip was the U.S. investment in the Ukrainian energy sector. Listen to what McCormick witnessed.
Yes, my job as a stenographer on the plane is to record what the vice president or a senior administration official says to the press. So I'm sitting back there with a tape recorder. Jake Sullivan comes back and somebody asks him about fracking. His answer is, well, we're bringing a lot of American assistance over for fracking. Burisma was the direct beneficiary of that fracking. And that's what I recorded. And that's in a White House transcript.
Well, just a few days before that, Hunter Biden had joined the board of Burisma, a large Ukrainian energy firm, as you've probably heard endlessly over the past few years. The U.S. did end up investing millions of dollars in Ukraine's energy market, and that raised a lot of questions about the nature of the relationship among Joe, Hunter, and Burisma. Questions you aren't supposed to ask about things you aren't supposed to notice. But McCormick wrote a book about it all. The title doubles as a battle cry: The Case to Impeach and Imprison Joe Biden. And Mike McCormick joins us now. Mike, good to have you with us. Let's start with a few things, if we may, and that is where you stand with, first, the FBI. I know that there's a sequence here, but I want to start with first your experience with the FBI when you went to them with your allegations about Joe Biden.
Thanks, Lou. Great to be back on with you. So about a year ago, late February 2023, I did an FBI tip form through their FBI tip website, witness tip website. I said, I'm a witness to a crime. The crime was committed in Air Force Two, April 21st, 2014. And the crime is public corruption. The FBI is supposed to investigate public corruption. Well, and who was involved in it? Joe Biden was the principal who sent Jake Sullivan back to the press. I was the witness that it was Jake Sullivan who was at Joe Biden's request promoting a company that had secretly put his son on the board, Burisma Holdings, the Ukrainian natural gas conglomerate. Hunter Biden was secretly on the board of that 3 days before we took that flight. His public announcement was about a month later. And Joe knew this. He knew he was on the board, and he knew he was supposed to be promoting this company for Hunter because he was part. It was all part of a big kickback scheme.
Well, the kickback scheme, and what was the reaction from the FBI? What did they say to you?
FBI hasn't called me, so I went to the media. Media helped me get the word out. And that got me in touch with the House Oversight Committee investigators and the investigators in the Senate Homeland Security Governmental Affairs Committee. So I did interviews with them, informal interviews last spring, April and May, and haven't heard didn't hear anything from them. So I took it one step further. I went to the U.S. Attorney, David Weiss, who was investigating Hunter Biden. He eventually put together a sweetheart deal for Hunter Biden. He didn't want to hear my evidence. They didn't want to hear from me. They ignored the evidence I sent them. And so I wrote the book. And
what evidence did you send them? What evidence, Mike, did you send them?
I took screenshots of the FBI tip form. I said, this is what I sent to the FBI. I sent them copies of a Substack I had written that had the transcripts that I wrote on Air Force Two. That was, where he talks about we're bringing energy assistance for non-traditional energy reserves. That's fracking. And so I showed him all that information that I had at that time. And then since then, more information has come out, and I put that in the book. And the information and the evidence I have is quite compelling.
And at this point, David Weiss, the U.S. Attorney, then the U.S. Attorney, this was 2013, is that correct?
So this was in 2014 was the flight. And then last summer, 2023 was when I got in touch with David Weiss, ignored me, and I've written a book.
And 2023 when you talked with the House Oversight Committee?
Correct.
But you talked to the FBI originally in what year with the FBI? Or tried to talk to them?
A year ago, 2023.
Right. So all of this in 2023.
Right.
And at this juncture, you're White House stenographer for 15 years. You've seen a lot of goings, comings, and doings. What was the most compelling evidence that you yourself personally witnessed?
Well, that was personally witnessed by me. And then as I had this conversation with the oversight investigators, they started directing attention to a trip Joe Biden took in December 2015 to Ukraine. And the outcome of that trip was that he demanded of the Ukrainians that they fire the prosecutor who was looking into Burisma. The guy's name was Shokin. Joe Biden went over there, and there's a famous video. I'm getting on the plane in 6 hours. If you don't fire this guy, you'd lose $1 billion. Well, Joe Biden made that threat on that trip. Right. But there's a video of Joe Biden as he's getting off Air Force Two on that trip. And who does he meet with? Secretly, there's a board member of Burisma who shakes his hand at the bottom of the stairs off Air Force Two. So this is Joe Biden sending, in my opinion, a message to the the President Poroshenko of Ukraine, who sees this video of him getting off this plane, saying, hey, I'm here with this Burisma guy. I'm here to do Burisma business. That turns that whole trip into a crime. Joe Biden was there committing a crime. He was using American resources to enrich his son and himself. That's public corruption. That's a crime, and that's why he should be impeached.
Well, Mike, we thank you for being with us and telling us your story. And we want to put up a screenshot of your book and Mike McCormick's book, The Case to Impeach and Imprison Joe Biden. Thanks so much, Mike. Appreciate it. All the best. And that all-important Georgia voting machine case, closing arguments today after 4 weeks of trial, almost 4 weeks. This is a remarkable case in which electronic voting machines, at least one brand, was demonstrated to be hackable. It was demonstrated to be manipulated, capable of manipulation. And these are machines that were supposed to be protected from interference or intrusion or hacking. And in about, I'm going to guess, less than 10 seconds, Professor Alex Halderman, the leading expert on electronic voting machines, demonstrated that they were hackable, that they could be manipulated, and that the voting machine company had not protected those devices. So, with closing arguments today, coming after all of this, we are going to see probably a decision, I would think, relatively quickly, but that's only my opinion. We're going to go to Amber Connor, who's been covering the trial, has the very latest for us on today's proceedings and those closing arguments. Amber, here we are, the conclusion of the trial, if not the end of it. Your thoughts about the closing arguments?
Closing arguments were very interesting today, Lou. The plaintiffs argued that these machines, these ballot marking devices, are very untrustworthy and full of vulnerabilities, whereas the state argued that the plaintiffs never showed evidence of any vulnerability and any issue that had come up within the last elections that Georgia has had. And so the back and forth was quite interesting. But the most interesting part of the closing statements was Mr. Oles, who represented Ricardo Davis. And he actually spoke to the evidence he would have liked to have been able to enter into the court record. But because of plaintiff's counsel, they didn't want that evidence entered. And so we sit with an opinion from the plaintiff's counsel that this equipment is not trustworthy, and the state's defense stating that there's no evidence that any election was swayed due to faulty equipment. So it's an interesting case, and we'll see where the judge lays on this.
Well, we know the judge has, let's say, a history with these voting machines. She has sealed the Haldeman report, which was the principal report, going into the issue of the vulnerabilities of these voting machines. She sealed that for 2 years. We now have a situation where she did not permit into evidence salient, pertinent, very important evidence into the case. Why not?
So the judge goes off of the objections that were given during this case. And anytime Ricardo Davis's counsel, David Olens, wanted to enter evidence, physical, actual evidence, the plaintiff's counsel did not want that to happen, because some of that evidence not only led to QR code issues where ballots were not scanned, but it also led to absentee ballot manipulation and big, large ballot drops during major elections, and 20,000 vote count taken away from Herschel Walker due to an accidental file upload that caused him to lose 20,000 votes. So the plaintiff's counsel didn't want those things in evidence, and they objected, as well as the state's defense And so the judge went off of their arguments and allowed Ricardo Davis's counsel to enter a proffer, which was just to speak to what they wanted to enter into evidence.
Yeah. It sounds like there was never any chance to win this case in Judge Sotenberg's courtroom, because if she's not permitting information about and evidence about the QR system, if she's not taking seriously the demonstration of the fact that the machine was hackable, that it was vulnerable to manipulation, that it wasn't protected from intrusion, how in the world does it come down that there isn't evidence that the state has a clunker of an EV machine on their hand?
Well, that's a great question, Lou. And all that leads me to, after hearing every day of this case, is that it seems like the plaintiff's counsel was more interested in helping Fani Willis with the indictment of those in Coffee County who, once they had told the Secretary of State's office they were having issues with their scanner and their QR codes not being read, and the Secretary of State's office didn't get back to them, they hired forensic specialists to look into it. And Marilyn Marks on the plaintiff's counsel was one of the ones who wanted to turn them in and called it the biggest breach that's ever happened within election systems, in which the state's defense said there was no breach of the system because the software is independent. And so it seems Marilyn Marks and the Coalition for Good Governance is more concerned with making sure that those defendants that are indicted in Coffee County have to go forward rather than winning this case.
You know, I'm starting to think that Georgia could be just a little crooked, to be honest with you. I know that's not a very court-like or legal opinion, but it sounds like something is really off in the state of Georgia. I mean, you've got a court case called Curling versus Raffensperger, and the appellate court decides that the Secretary of State, who's responsible for all of this, doesn't have to participate in the trial. Amber, thanks. I look forward to talking with you tomorrow here, and I thank you for all of your great reporting, as always. Thanks so much. Amber Connor. And a programming reminder for everyone who wants to please join us 7 days a week on my podcast, The Great America Show. 7 days a week. We're available at LouDobbs.com, Apple Podcasts, iHeart, Spotify, wherever you get your podcast. Please pick up The Great America Show podcast. I think you'll enjoy it. Thanks for being with us. Join us tomorrow at 7 o'clock Eastern. The Lindell Report is next, and you don't want to miss it. Good night, and God bless you. Here's Mike.
Hello, You're watching Lindell TV. This is the Lindell Report, bringing you news combined with hope by offering practical and achievable action points to assist you in defending and preserving faith and freedoms. And now, here is your host, Mike Lindell. Good evening. Welcome to the Lindell Report. I'm Brandon House, in for Mike Lindell, who is out saving the country. I mean, that's what he's out there doing and working and having some very important meetings. And so he asked me if I would come and jump in and get it started. But we are going to have a new guest host tonight, folks. My friend Marilyn Todd. And I know she will do a tremendous job. So no need for Marilyn to be nervous. If she is, I don't know, maybe she's not even nervous. But she has no reason to be, because she's very smart, very gifted, and she'll do a great job. And she has a guest ready to go. And she'll join you in just 1 minute. But what I want to do real quick is remind you that this broadcast is brought to you by you. And if you appreciate all that Mike has done and is doing and the sacrifices he has made, the attacks he has taken, non-stop daily attacks,